Dealing with a 2002 Toyota Highlander today. It's got a misfire. Originally, when I got the car, it was blatantly missing, and I leave for a couple hours, go to the gym, come back, start it up. I'm like, let me go ahead and mess with it. It's not misfiring anymore. So let me get logged in here, see what the code states, and see what's going on. My biggest concern is it probably like is an igniter or something, because these older cars do have that. I've also had like the connectors fail. Let's see what the trouble code state. Just don't know. Don't know. The car knows though. It was blatantly flashing, so up cylinder 6. Cool. Cylinder 6 should be in the front. Being that it's not, let me see what it's doing. I don't know if I feel it misfire. I don't think I have actual misfire data on this, but we're gonna find out though. I can't remember what my options were on this particular year. Worst case scenario, I have to hook the scope up and check the actual coils and go from there. Okay, I am observationally challenged, and I probably might overlook it. Make sure I'm not. Okay, so we don't have that in there. Let's see what's in special function. Anything misfire related. Check mode, reset memory. Nope. Let's see if it's in live data. Just explore all the options. See what my resources are. This is where the bidirectional This was where the bidirectional tool comes in handy. You know, we can explore our options depending on what the symptoms are and the customer's complaint. We can see if we can do non-invasive testing measures. This is just gonna be probably some generic information because of the age of it. Misfires is kind of up. Nope. It's not an active misfire count, is it? I don't see a misfire counter. Oh shoot. It's not actively misfiring. Let me see if there's. Okay, I don't see a misfire counter unless I overlook that. Usually you'll see a counter just populating. Being that it's cylinder 6 that's in question, we could just do a visual inspection, since it should be right there in the front, by the radiator side on the far end, furthest away from the timing belt. I can do a visual inspection, move the connector, and see if it changes anything, because the connectors can fail on here. Like, Toyotas are good for connectors becoming very brittle. And, it's just not doing anything right now. It's a possibility it may need to get really hot before it starts actively misfiring. I gotta take in consideration, if I touch something, I may inadvertently fix it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, all right, so I gave it a light throttle. There we go. So this is a live misfire counter. Awesome. So it's during the snap. That's when the conditions are typically going to be leaner initially, and the demand is going to ramp up, and it's hard for spark to jump. And I mean, it's like a blip when it probably will happen too. And that's what I'm getting. Or either it's because it's really low RPM. If I catch it just right, it'll do it. Okay, so that ignition probably is the misfire counter. Okay, it's just not classified as a misfire counter. There we go. I can feel it again. If I get the RPM low enough, it'll do it. Let me put it in drive and see what happens. I'll put a load on it. It'll drop the RPM. Let me snap the throttle. No. Yeah, that was a really aggressive one. Yeah, so under a load it'll do it. So yeah, we need to go to cylinder 6. The simplest way to do this, I really don't have I really don't feel like pulling out all the technology type stuff, and I just rather just go to it, do a visual inspection, see what it looks like, you know, move the connector around while it's idling first, visual inspection, and then start pulling things and doing those type of inspections, because I don't want to, you know, fix it and it never does it again. But this feel like a boot has failed. I've had other coils laying around where I just kept where the coil will explode on the secondary portion. And I don't know if this is going to be one of those, but we're going to find out. Let's go ahead and do a visual inspection and wiggle the wires first and see if it makes a change in the harness, and that'll rule out a possibility of the connector being defective, because these do fail. So this could be cylinder 1 in the back, 2, 4, 6. So here's cylinder 6, and the coils are already replaced. I don't know if I did this before. Ooh, this is interesting. Coil's brand new. I probably replaced this before and don't realize it. But as hard, as aggressive as that misfire was, definitely I'm going to suspect the coil. But then again, I didn't observe everything that I had to my disposal, such as fuel trims and freeze frame data. But based off of how it was misfiring, I can't help but to think it's going to be ignition coil related, especially if it's an aftermarket coil on here. So, and they fail. Let's do a stress test. I'm gonna pull the coil retaining bolt, lift it up, and see if it has a issue jumping. And what that'll do, it'll stress the secondary. So if it's gonna fail, it's gonna fail prematurely, and that fashion is gonna do it. It should be able to jump. I didn't move it that far. I didn't move it that far. Should be able to jump. Let me go ahead and pull it all the way out. Let me shut it down. Gosh, still sound like nasally. Gosh, it's the antifreeze. That don't sound good. It sound like coolant being pushed out. Could there be head gasket problems? I mean, the coolant reservoir is full over there too. Look at that. This is full. Heard it pushing out. That ain't good. Head gaskets blow in so many different ways too. So many different ways. But let's first at least just pull off what's obvious. Inspect the boot. Inspect the plug, which looks great. Coil, superficially, I mean, it looks fine. You know, I'm looking for any type of arcing. from the boot here. That don't seem to be a thing. Let's pull out the spark plug, inspect that. Sometimes the spark plug may have like a little pit inside of, or like a little pin-sized cavity, and you'll see a little blackened area where it's been arcing. Now, that's not to say that's going to happen, because typically when it happens, you'll see it reflect on the boot too. But we got to check it. Do that because people hate it. Let's see what happens. I need to get something to hold that with, because that's going to be very hot. Let's inspect the spark plug. I know I put plugs in here before. It's an iridium plug. Look at the porcelain. Looks fine. There's no pitting. That's nothing. Yeah, the plug looks great. Plugs don't fail intermittently like that. If I wanted to, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to take the plug and swap them with another cylinder, as I would just naturally do with the coils anyway. I think that's worth doing. You know, the plug looks fine, coil looks fine. Let's just swap it with 4 and see if anything changes, and do the same test. Here's number 4. This is very hot. This is very hot. Look how well this one looks. Hold on quick. Let's get them. So here's 6, the one with the misfire. Here's 4. Now, if the head gasket was bad, it will be clean. It's not clean. It does have a lot more soot buildup, and it possibly could be subjected to more oil than others. I mean, the car does have a lot of miles on it. It does have a lot more carbon buildup. Definitely a lot more carbon buildup. I want to leave the plugs alone and swap them and see if the misfire goes to the other side. Let me just put a mark on the coils and the spark plug. So this is the culprit. We'll just put a dot right there, and we'll pop that in there, pop that in there. Let's get the coil. We already know which one that is because it was new. Alright, so we're going to put over there, put that up, put 2, number 2, coil, the aftermarket coil here. Okay. There. Alright, so we got the coil swap. Let's see what happens. We'll do a snap throttle. Technically, it should change from 6 to 4. Where's 4? Right here. And we'll see if that's a thing. If it stays on cylinder 6, yep, there you go. I felt it and I'm like, oh, let's see where it goes. And I got a little worried. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't be on 6. It moved to 4. This is interesting. We could change the coils and see if the coil is the culprit. But sometimes what can happen, it could be like, just because the spark plug's bad, it could contribute to the bad coil. So I don't, you know, do you just change? It's probably best just to warranty out the plug and the coil and call it a day, because that's all it seems like. It's, yeah, because it's the aftermarket coil. It's going to be weaker. Could be the plug though. Could be. But do you just chance the plug and swap them both and see what happens? Because just because the coil's bad, this is why it's good to use a scope and see if the state of health is fine. I think it's probably worth doing that. Let's just get the oscilloscope, check the current, and compare it to a good one. I'm just getting everything set up here. And here we go. So I'm finding my voltage because I'm gonna hook up on a 12 volts. This black wire here, it's gonna be my 12 volts. That's what I'll be hooked up on. They're on the same side here. So I'll just hook my amp clamp up there. I got my amp clamp set on the lowest setting. It's set on the lowest setting here, so every 100 millivolts is 1 amp. Oh, 100 millivolts is going to be 1 amp, so I got it on my lowest setting. And yeah, I can't remember. This is a 60 amp, and then I got it on, there you go. There you go. Yeah, 60 amp max, and I think this is like on the smaller current ramp, so I think it maxes out at 20 amp on the small one, if I recall properly. Either way, let's see, it goes face towards the positive. I literally had to write it on there because I would forget. All right, make sure it's tight. We're good there. And I'm gonna get my time base set up on a 1 volt scale. Man, well, it should be about, yeah, 1 volt scale, so we should see about 800 milliamps. I'd imagine. I imagine it should be pulling around 8 amps, I guess. I don't know what these coils outputs are from the factory, but generally I would suspect that. All right, let's start it up, see what we're doing. So I'd imagine it will be more progressive versus like instantaneous. That part right there is what bothers me, versus a more slant type waveform. So let's take a screenshot of this, and let's hook up on the next one. So remember, this is making about 6.5 or about 7 amps. Let's see what the factory one is making. Yeah, look how strong that is. It's making beyond. Oh god. That factory one is making like 12 amps. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. What we could do, hook up on another one that's neighboring it. See how this one is? See how like instantaneous it just starts to ramp up versus having like the build and climb and then go up. This is how a coil's supposed to look. See, this is, we condemn the coil being bad. Let's go back to the bad one. This is a bad coil. It's not making nowhere near the factory one. Let's just, for the shits and giggles, I'm gonna hook up on number 2, since we don't, that wasn't a problem, but let's compare that one. See, that's just like, that's a factory coil too. Look how it just ramps up. Let me see if I can go to 2 volts. So this is making, yep, about 11 amps. Let's put the bad one back up. And yeah, there's There's the difference. So yeah, well, guess what? We don't need a spark plug. We need a coil. This coil was aftermarket. I swear I got this from the parts store. I swear to you, I got it from O'Reilly's. Let me make sure that this is under warranty. If not, I'm still going to come out with a new coil. We know the coil's defective and it needs to be replaced based off the current ramps. And I don't know what else to say. Let's get a new part. All right. What's a flash for y'all wound up being like a whole hour for me. I talk a lot, so I went to the parts store, got what I needed. This was covered under warranty. Unfortunately, they didn't have the one that I did purchase, and I didn't buy the top of the line, the super top of the line ignition coil. I just didn't think it was going to fail like that. So I did buy the updated one, upgraded one, not updated one. And this is the import direct line that O'Reilly's do sell. Come to find out, I wound up getting that coil June of last year. So June of 2023. So it lasted 8 months almost. Unfortunately. So you would think that, you know, because it's shiny and new, that it's going to be worth something. But this is just goes to show you again. I mean, even though I totally support this parts company, things fail, and it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Oh, need to take that off of there. So, without further ado, let's do the same test, and we should get at least, I want to say at least 10 amps. The other one made like, what was it, 12 or so? 11, no, like 11.5 or something like that. This at least should make something compatible or right there at the OEM specs. It should meet or exceed OEM quality. All right, let's get the scope hooked back up, put the amp clamp back on, and get our values. All right, so I'm hooked up on the factory one, and I'm just going to get us the value just to make sure I'm hooked up properly. Get this zoomed in. So there's our OEM coil. All right, let's hook up on the aftermarket one. So it's closed in on here. And it does look different from the factory. It does have like a strange peak hole for some strange reason. It is making compatible amperage, 11 amps, but for some strange reason, it's holding at the top. And I'm going to assume that's definitely going to be a quality issue because it's not factory. And that's unfortunately the downside when we get non-OEM products. We don't have good, smooth transitioning components that work on the same scale as OEM. It works, and I'm not satisfied with it, but it's definitely gonna, you know, serve its purpose at the moment. So I'm not entirely sure. Let me see and make sure that's not a problem because the check engine light came on. Let me try clearing the codes and see if it changes anything. I know it's kind of crazy in a long shot, but why in the world would it have that kind of peak hold during the let me see here, let's go to let's go to a generic scan. Why would I have like a peak hold during that dwell phase? I don't understand why it's doing that and all the other coils aren't doing that. I don't know, maybe it's like a limiter, I guess, because instead of it pulling too much energy, it had like a kind of a current limit or something. I don't know. Don't know. I'm not the most intelligent when it comes to those type of circuits, but I wonder if that's a theme inside of the ignition coil. Let's just see what codes come up. I know I don't expect this to do anything, but I mean, I think it's just it's going to be a compatibility issue. It's going to clear it anyway and see if it make a difference. And if it do, then learn something new. If it don't, I'm just going to chalk it up because it's non-OEM. It's making more amperage than the other one, so the state of health is technically better. Let's go back to the oscilloscope. Okay, let's start the truck up. Okay, let's see what happens. Doing the same thing. Yeah, I guess it's just going to be a aftermarket issue. That's all it's going to be. I'm going to take a screenshot of this because I found that interesting. Because I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not going to blame it on the circuit. I mean, because the... Let's see if I can get this in here. Well, yeah, even the factory one isn't doing anything like that. It's not, this doesn't have that tabletop like the other one did. Like I say, I don't understand why. Let me shut this car down. You know what, I do remember why this coolant level's full, because the lady had to come by like 2 weeks ago for another problem. And when I was diagnosing the issue with the mass airflow sensor, because it didn't have a check-in light, it was just a drivability issue. The mass airflow sensor was dirty, and as I described everything, she said, well, could my coolant level be the problem? So this is why the coolant level's overfilled, because for some strange reason she thought because of drivability issue with like lethargic acceleration, she did, even though I fully explained everything, because it was like electronic problem, she thought because the reservoir was low. So this explains it. So she probably added more coolant to it. That's why. Anyway, the car's fixed. I wish I had a better explanation of what's going on with the aftermarket circuit in comparison to the factory one. The good thing is the state of health is normal, amperage wise. You know, it makes the same amount of amps as the factory coils do. 11 amps is meeting factory specs. It's just doesn't have that smooth ramp like the factory coils do. Hell, even the old one, the old one had more of a nice slope in a way, besides the fact that it was shorted out and weak. This one, on the other hand, maybe it's a quality, maybe it is, I don't know. I don't know. If I find some time and contact, Import Direct about it, maybe their techs will have an explanation, but I highly doubt it. I don't even think it's that serious worth communicating that to them and asking what's going on with that. It doesn't mean anything, but that should let you know the difference between aftermarket and factory. There's just there's a difference. Don't know, but we saw what happened. We had a misfire, went through the process of elimination, isolated the coils, condemned the coil to be defective, and unfortunately it happened to be a coil I put on about 8 months ago. Lady's not going to owe anything but just to pay the difference for the coil, and that's it. And this is free labor. So yeah, it'd be like that. But the main thing is, learn something new. It didn't take long to diagnose this, like 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Just follow some patterns. We know how current ramp's supposed to look. We know what this is producing. This is a very reliable method when condemning coils. or checking the state of health of electrical components. Check the current ramp. But if anything happened, I'll definitely update. This was a pretty much cut and dry replacement. Hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, how to reassurance my work. See you on the next one.